Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be performing a tutorial to create a quadrant chart to show the different segments and also to point out the different company that have high growth, making use of parameters as well as set function. So to begin with, I will import a text file. The file will be provided in the link in this video below. So I will go to the text file, and then I will import this CSV file. Okay, to have a look at the CSV file, you can see there's ID, company name, revenue, expense, profit, year-on-year growth of profit, as well as industry, country, state, and city. However, we'll only be using a few of these columns to perform the quadrant graph. I'll start off by going to the worksheet. We'll be creating the scatter plot before we create the different quadrants. To create the scatter plot, I'll drag the revenue to the column. Next, I will drag in the expense to the row. You might see there's only one data point over there. That's because both of them are in the summation state. And therefore, when you sum the entire column, you only have one result. So with that, we need to go to the analysis tab. And then we would like to uncheck this aggregate measures. With that, you have all the data entries. Okay, they are no longer aggregated together. Next, we would like to change this to a circle format, a solid circle. We'll click on the marks, and then we'll choose the option circle. Following which, I would like to have the size representing the revenue. I'll bring the revenue to the size. And next, I would like to change the opacity of all this circle. I'll go to color, and I'll put it around 50%. To make it simpler, I can just type in, press enter, and then it's a 50% opacity. Next, I'll be creating the different parameters. To easily access creating the parameter, I can go to this button, click on create parameter. The first one over here, I will call it revenue cutoff. Since it's in the integer format, the data type should be integer. And I'll select the range. So to understand how big the range is for the revenue, I can go to add values from and have a look at the range of values in the revenue. I understand that the revenue minimum is this number, maximum is this number. However, it's quite an odd number. So I will round down the minimum, be 1 million. And I will round up the value of this to be 20 million. As the size is quite big in terms of the range, I'll choose the step size to be 100,000. So just to mention a little bit about the step size is like how you are walking, okay? And each movement is how many inch, how many meters. So for each time you click the button, you move in the range of 100,000. So when you click one time, it'll be 100,000. If you decrease, it will decrease by 100,000. Whenever you're ready, just click on OK, and you have the revenue cutoff. I will have to create another parameter, and that is for the expense. I'll call it the expense cutoff. The data type will be integer. And the same way that I have done it for my revenue, I'll add the value from the expense so that I know the range of the expense. I'll round down my minimum, and I'll round up my maximum to be 10 million. The step size, I'll leave it at 100,000. So it coincides with the step size from the revenue. I'll click on OK in order to get the expense cut off. I'll create another parameter. This parameter is meant for the top company growth. I'll click on this. I'll call it top growth companies parameter. The data type will be integer. This time I will select the range. I would like it to be a minimum of 10, meaning to say that I will not have any value lower than 10. You'll start off with the starting point of 10. Maximum of 1,000 and each step size of 10. And I'll click OK for this. Now I have all the parameters in place. It's time for me to create the set. The set function is only available on the dimension, and I would like to create on the ID. I'll click on the drop down, go to create. Then I go to set. I'll call this ID set revenue for simplicity. And I would like to look at condition. For this, I'll select by formula. And I'll write in the formula sum of revenue more than revenue cutoff. I'll click OK for this, and I'll explain the meaning of this in a little bit. I have to create another one for expense. Go here, click on create on the set. This time I'll call it ID set expense. Going to condition, selecting formula. I'll write a similar formula, but this time around is the other direction. So it's the sum of expense less than the expense cut off. So you notice that the operator is a little bit different. Instead of more than, this time is less than. I'll click on OK. Another set function that I'm going to create. Going to ID, go to create, and then go to set. Over here, this time I'll set ID set top growth company. And I'll make use of top. So for this top over here, you'll bring out the top 10 values, okay, based on the particular field. So by field. Okay, so here you take out the top 10, but now I can link it to the parameter that I created earlier. So I select top company growth, and I would like it to be based on the year-on-year growth of profit. I'll leave the sum as it is. Click on OK. All right, so now we have all the set function. I would like to combine them because I would like to form a particular quadrant. So I would like to combine these two set function together. I'll select both of them, click on create combine set. And for simplicity, I'll write the same way, ID set revenue plus expense. What's more important is selecting this option, shared members in both sets, because in the way you need to satisfy the conditions set by the expense as well as the conditions set by the revenue. In a way, if you think about it, in the SQL manner, you're looking at the inner join. Click on OK, so you form this. Now you have all the set function. You like to pull out the parameters. So you can select each of the parameter and do a show parameter so that it shows on the right-hand side. I'll do the same for this, as well as this. You may choose to reorder them the way you like. So maybe I want to bring the top company's growth below. All right. But nothing will work here unless you bring the set function into the colors. So you need to select these two at the same time, because for each set function, you'll just do the replacement of color rather than bringing these both in. So I'll bring in both of them to the color, and you start to see a little bit of segmentation going on. In order to see it clearly, you need to set the revenue cutoff as well as this expense cutoff to the center. In a way, because the cutoff is to the side of the axis, you won't be able to see anything. So putting both in the center, you get to see the segmentation form over here. All right, so now you have the color. Now is to flip the quadrant above. As we all know, the quadrant above here, usually it represents kind of like the good quadrant. Most of the time, we like to see this as the good quadrant. So we would like to flip this onto this portion over here. What we can do is go into the left side, the y-axis, right-click on it, do the edit axis. And with that, we would like to reverse our scale. So the scale now will appear on the top right-hand corner. With that, now we would like to edit the colors. So to modify the colors, I can go to the color mark, click on it, click on edit colors, and we would like to modify the marks. So the in actually represents within the quadrant and within the top company growth. So it's inside in both selection. For the in out, they're within this quadrant, but outside of the top company growth parameter. For the out in, it'll be outside of this quadrant, but inside the top company growth. And out, it represents they are neither of those selection. So to represent the color, I can leave the in as it is. For the in out, in order to change the color, I need to select the left-hand side, followed by the right-hand side. So you can see the color change. For the out in, which I'm not so concerned, I'll change both of this color to gray in color. So when you apply it, you get to see the segmentation form in this portion over here. And now when you are playing with it, you should be able to see different revenue as well as a different expense cutoff. When you play with the top company growth parameter, you can get to see these are the few top company growth parameter. Right, to add on, we can add in a reference line. So to get in the reference line, you can go to the Analytics tab, look for the reference line. If you want to apply the reference line on the revenue axis, you need to click on the revenue, hold the revenue, move the cursor, and go onto this portion over here. Make sure it's above this shade and it's shaded in orange color. Let go. On the value portion, if you want to link it to the revenue cutoff, you'll need to change this to the revenue cutoff. Click on OK. And as you can see, when you move the revenue cutoff, you get to see the line move as well. I'll do the same thing for the expense. I'll click on the reference line, and then I'll move to the expense. Selecting the value as the expense cutoff. Click on OK. And there you can get to see the expense cutoff. So there you go. You have this dashboard over here. To make it more complete, maybe you would like to know the names of the top company growth. All right, for that, I can create a new worksheet. For this case, I'll just create a new worksheet and I'll rename this as Top Growth Company. This will be a kind of a table where it details down the different companies that are in the top growth and as well as in the good quadrant. So I would like to drag in the company name to the rows. And I would like to present the year-on-year growth of profit, which I'll bring it to the text. Since this text is in the year-on-year growth of profit, I would like to change this to a percentage form. So over here, I'll click on this and I'll choose format. And I would like to change the numbers to percentage, followed by reducing the decimal place. Okay, when I'm done with it, I can exit this. So I'll get back the data panel. Next, I would like to sort it from the largest to smallest. But before that, I would like to bring the filters of the set function. So if I were to bring in the set function, I would like to bring in the combine set. Likewise, the top company growth set to the filter. Now you can see there is a filtered version of the company names. So what does it mean? Actually, all this name represents the orange circle that you see in this sheet over here. To make it easily recognizable, I can sort it in the largest to the smallest order, and I can give a little bit of color as well. I can bring the year-on-year growth of profit to the color. So it gives a little bit of a color scale right here. I can change this to a square so it fills up and looks a little bit like a heat map. I can change the color as well by editing the colors. And maybe for this case, I would like to change to orange gold. So it highlights the top growth right at the top. Now we have this, we can create a dashboard. So between the new worksheet, you can click on new dashboard and we can bring in the relevant graphs in. I'll bring in this graph over here. This is the worksheet that we have. For this particular title, I probably do not need this. Likewise, for this legend, I think it's not required as well, as I just need this cutoff over here. I now can drag this second worksheet that I have to this corner over here. And this will represent the top company growth that you see in all this circle down here. For this legend, I do not need it as well. I can reserve the space. And finally, I can add something at the top, okay, to represent this as a startup quadrant. So I can bring a text, can bring it at the top, and I could write it as a startup quadrant. Put it in the center, make it a bit bold, make it a little bit bigger. Readjust the size a little bit. And if you like, you can give a little bit of layout as well. Click on the layout. Let me select some border. And I can give a little bit of a background color. Maybe I'll choose this color. And with that, you have a dashboard. As you play with the different parameters, you can get to see what other potential companies you can get to invest based on this. And that marks the end of this tutorial. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.